Join two sisters who explore the couples that fandoms adore. We write their stories in the night, in the glow of computer light. Eyes connect, clothing flies, in our head canon love never dies. Pencils that leave us pining, in deep forums we are mining. For this journey better strap in, because we all know that shit happens.
Welcome to the podcast that explores the couples fans can't stop dreaming about from the pop culture you love. Because when it comes to your childhood hyperfixations,
ship happens! We're your host. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Emily.
She likes nerd culture.
And she likes making podcasts. So we thought we'd join forces to make a podcast about popular online ships.
And before we get into the meat of today's episode, Emily, do you have a ship of the week?
Okay, I guess I do. So I have seen the first 3 episodes of the new TV show Interview with a Vampire.
Ooh.
So it has taken some certain subtext and just made it text. So the two vampires, what are they? Louis and Lestat. I feel like there was some shipping going on in the movies, the books. They're just together now. They're a couple.
So like queer baiting, no mo.
No, they're just queer. So I guess I ship them. I mean, they're terrible. It's bad for them, but good for me. So I'm excited to see what other toxic stuff they get up to this season.
It's entertainment.
Yeah.
My ship of the week comes from, again, you're watching a new show. I'm late to the party. But I was sick recently, and for the duration of my sickness, I watched a show called Kevin Can F Himself. And there is a character in a domestic violence situation, and then she teams up with her neighbor to try to get out, aka kill her husband, try to get out of it. And her neighbor is a lesbian who is secretly in love with the woman who the show's about, Allison. And so I feel like there was some more going on subtext there. So I actually think those two should get together. I was rooting for that in the end instead of Allison continue. Well, she can't really get in a new relationship when she's
too early.
Still, recovering.
Recover.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
with your neighbor that helped you off your abusive ex.
Yeah, who was so clearly in love with her the whole time.
Is it still ongoing?
No, it ended. It's only 2 seasons. But the director confirmed that Patty did, in fact, have a thing for Allison after a certain scene. They started off as enemies, and then they actually got close. And I thought they were the best dynamic on the whole show. So I was like, yeah, I want them to get together in the
she
end.
Deserves it.
Right. After you've had such a bad time with men, like, come on.
Yeah.
So that's my controversial take of that show, which I guess is probably not controversial, really. But I do have a controversial opinion about the show we're going to talk about today, Buckle In. My controversial take is that elves shouldn't have pores. I tried to trick you there, right? But I was consuming a lot of fan edits about this particular couple, and there is a scene where I know they just got done battling, but the lady elf, who we're going to be talking about today, is like covered in dirt, and her hair's a mess. You could see all the pores on her face, and I was like, "Come on, she's an elf."
She's ethereal.
Yeah. Legolas climbing up a Mumakil and killing it, and his hair is like not a single one out of place. Like, come on. They shouldn't be relatable.
No, I think that's part of the show. Like, problem with the show is that they're just like normal humans making stupid decisions. All right, well, what we're talking about is Rings of Power, the Lord of the Rings spin-off TV show on Amazon Prime, and specifically Galadriel and Sauron.
We're talking Lord of the Rings, so buckle in for an extensive 3-hour deep dive into the deep lore, including what is mentioned in the Appendix and the Silmarillion. Did I say that right?
No, it will actually, so they don't have the rights to the Silmarillion, so it's just the appendices.
Just the appendices. And by the fact that I mispronounced that word tells you that we're not actually going to do a deep dive into that. But if you are, there's lots of podcasts out there that do. And one of them is special shout out to Prancing Pony Podcast, who me and another person I do a podcast with met Alan, the host of that, at a conference a while ago. And he was a very nice dude. And he was like our little podcast buddy for the conference. So check that one out if you're a big Lord of the Rings nerd.
I'll have to. I love Lord of the Rings. I really thought you were going to say controversial take, elves shouldn't bang. And I was like, I'm with you.
I want to see more elf banging.
Like, there is not any sex in Middle Earth except for Samwise Gamgee having all those kids.
And his habits. So, they just have like a ritual, whatever. He grew them in his garden. So Emily and I are sisters. We got to put that into the intro somewhere. And we grew up being huge Lord of the Rings nerds. I think there was a Christmas where it was like literally all Lord of the Rings themed. And it ended with a treasure hunt for the one ring replica that my dad had bought from a store at the mall.
Cigar store or something?
Yeah, something random. Emily had all the Foxtrot Lord of the Rings comics cut up and taped on her wall.
I'll put some pictures mixed in there. Yeah, some stills from the movie.
And I had collected it was a Poladay calendar. I had collected every image of Eowyn and Aragorn in the same photo and taped that to my wall. Because if you listen to our first episode, or maybe second, because I don't have a good working brain anymore, it was one of my top ships that I talked about.
Yeah. Original. So yeah.
Hashtag horse girl.
So, I mean, you could probably guess. I was pretty stoked for some more Lord of the Rings. Well, I don't know about excited, but
cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. I was just kind of
curious, intrigued.
I was ready to be back in Middle Earth, but from my experience with the Hobbit movies.
Oh, yeah.
So not 100% excited, I guess.
And it's like you said, there's not a lot of romance. So, you don't see a lot of romance in the original trilogies. I think there's even less in The Hobbit. I don't think there's any female characters.
There's not a woman in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're like, whoa.
Tom Bombadil and his wife. No, that's not even The Hobbit. Cut that out. That's right. I'm getting confused.
That's the Fellowship.
Man. Embarrassing. Talking about how much we love it.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I never read the books till I was an adult. I just was all about the movies.
He's not even in there until now.
He's
in the TV show.
And out of all the limited choices of people to ship and opportunities, the limited romance, the couple that we're going to talk about today would never have been one my child brain would have put together. Because I didn't know that Sauron wasn't just a big eye.
I'm still not sure how that works. Nope. So the couple we are going with out of the TV show would be our main character, our go-to gal, Galadriel and Sauron, the Dark Lord himself.
Which he also goes by another name in the first season before they do the big reveal that he's Sauron, and his name was I don't know it anymore because I just think Haladriel.
Halbrand.
Halbrand. So he's Halbrand and Galadriel are running around having their little flirtation going on. So the original ship name for this is Haladriel. Joke's on us. That's not who he really is. It's really Sauron. So now they got to have a new name, which is what? Saurondriel?
Saurondriel.
Saurondriel.
Or my favorite, I like to flip it, Galadron.
Galadron. I like that better too. I had written down in a question mark Galadrion, but that doesn't sound as good as, what did you say?
I just like Galadron. Like Galadron. Sounds like a dinosaur or someone Godzilla would fight.
Galadron. He's coming to stomp your city. This mythical monster smashed our city. A lot of hopes were smashed with the Rings of Power series. But we'll get into that. Before there was the Rings of Power on Amazon Prime, brought to you by Jeff Bezos, The Lord of the Rings was a sweeping story that covered ages of a fictional world called Middle-earth. And a big piece of it is there was a lot of power tied into some small pieces of jewelry. And the main saga focuses on destroying one of those pieces, like the big piece, the ring of all rings.
The one to rule them all, you might say.
This specific chapter tells the story of how that one ring of power was made. I guess all the rings of power, but specifically the one. And that's how it set up all the stuff that happened.
Right. So yeah, you have the movies, The Hobbit, all pretty much focus on the one ring. There's the little poem about all the different rings. So this is the story of how all those different rings got forged. Basically, so yeah, they have the rights to The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. So they just took all the extra stuff from there. There's some appendices at the end of The Return of the King. And then just some stuff that was on the cutting room floor for the Lord of the Rings movie, like the aforementioned Tom Bombadil. And now that's what, yep, so Charlie Fellow. And that's what they got rights to. So what it is really is just kind of a loose history of what happened before The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings. So they just kind of took all that info and went, what if it happened a little something like this? So
and then they just started improv and they were doing jazz, skit, scat, it's
like not even
timeline, throw it out the window.
No, yeah, it's out the window. These things take thousands of years in the books, and it's super fast.
It's happening.
Yep, yeah. The guy who eventually kills Sauron is already alive. But yeah, it's not even an adaptation. It's just kind of some fan fiction. It's specifically a prequel to the movies. There's a lot of callbacks in the movies. So anyway, that's what it is. Basically a prequel to the movies.
I think that's a good synopsis of what the Rings of Power is. And we're not even going to touch on all the controversy that everybody got butthurt about a lot of pieces of it. And I was kind of playing on that in the beginning. Let's talk more about our ship here, right? Because it's made of two people. As we talked about Galadriel, she is in, I think, short, the super elf queen or something of that nature, right? And elves, if you're not aware of any fantasy literature or Dungeons and Dragons or anything like that,
basically anything,
are literally the holier than thou perfect beings. Yeah. So these elves, this one in particular is the Lady of Light, right? She's like the best of the best.
Yes.
According to Tolkien. I think he even wrote that somewhere. I read it on Reddit. Somebody had a quote from one of Tolkien's writings.
Yeah.
Like the Lost Book or something.
She inspired, Fëanor to create the Silmarils, which are like big freaking deals. That was like original battle. Morgoth, Sauron's, the big bad. Yeah, that was a fight over the Silmarils. But yeah, she's kind of the top elf in Middle Earth, especially in the later books when the elves are fading, heading to the west.
So she's like the OG it girl, right? So she's got somebody, she's inspiring.
Yeah.
She was the muse of Uncut Gems. Or she's like that person. And now she's got Sauron thirsting after her. Mm-hmm. Damn, we should all aspire to be Galadriel. But also she's married, by the way, right?
Yeah, this whole time she's married.
80% through the research. And then I'm like, oh, she has a husband?
The whole time. But yeah, Celeborn or Celeborn.
Well, I knew he was around because we see him in Lothlorien.
Yes, he is.
Wait,
in the
did I
movies.
say that right? It's been a long time since I've thought some of these words.
He doesn't Lothlorien. He doesn't like do a whole lot. He's just kind of there next to Galadriel while she just.
He's also blonde.
Kate Blanchett, can't go wrong.
Exactly. She does the opening monologue of the trilogy.
Yes.
She's important to the story, she's important to the world, and she's important to the movies.
And she's important to this TV show as she is the main character. And she, as Galadriel, starts to maybe head to the west, which is kind of like a metaphor for dying in this series. Although it's like a physical location as well. But as she heads there, she's like, nope, I don't want to die yet. I got too much unfinished business. I have to put an end to evil in Middle Earth for reasons. She hops off a raft and meets our hero here, kind of Halbrand.
Which I should also say, her unfinished business, ridding Middle Earth of evil, was also specifically tied to one individual, right?
Her brother.
Who killed her brother.
Yeah. Yeah, a specific, very evil person who maybe...
His name is Sauron,
maybe
and you're going to hear about him a lot. Because when she is hopping on that... Well, okay, before we get to the boat. Sauron himself, if she's like the top Lady of Light, he's the foil of that in the story. He is the head chief of the evil god, right? Or is the evil god dead? He's like up there. He's the Dark Lord.
He's the new Dark Lord. So Morgoth, I think, was the OG. They do manage to defeat him. Sauron's just kind of kicking it afterwards. He's like, I could be the new one.
Yeah, he was the servant to Morgoth, and now he's trying to take his place, or was he? we'll get into that a little bit later. But as you can see, the writing is on the wall with these two, right? Tale as old as time. I think this is like, I was doing this whole thing and I'm like, wait, was that, I was doing the research for this and in my head I'm thinking, is that Haladriel or is that Ray Kylo or whatever? Raylo. Because it's very similar vibes.
Yeah, light, dark. Can she bring him? Can she fix him? Can she save him?
Yeah, it does. It does bring about some really cool art. I think of all of the couples that we've done thus far, which is this is like the 5th, so it's not a ton yet. But I like the art. The fan art of these two the best. And I don't know, we collect little bits and pieces of it. I don't know if we're going to share it with the episodes because we haven't figured out how to do that respectfully of the artist. But if we do, we'll put out some of the art with the episodes that like inspired our conversations or we thought captured it. And I think this is some of my favorite. Like I would print these and put them on my wall.
Yeah, these are some cool art. And like it's just you got the iconic like Sauron helmet. And then with the Lady of Light, it's some like classic stuff. Some cool
it's pretty. And a lot of it is cool. Like impressionist too, which is my favorite. But that's probably not such exciting to talk about.
Right.
So okay, I got questions here.
Okay.
How of Sauron in this show, or he's masquerading as Halbrand, which is like a big reveal at the end of the first season. You get kind of a dramatic reveal. But the whole time, they're kind of setting him up like he's going to be a long-lost king, which is very familiar to our friends who have listened, who have consumed The Lord of the Rings before.
Yes.
And he also looks very similar to another long-lost king who we all had deep, deep crushes on or, that we manifested by wanting them to get together with the horse girl. I just mean they made Halbrand look so much like Aragorn, and I cannot get over it.
So honestly, actually,
it has to mean something, right?
So, I mean, no, in this TV show, literally that like shoulder length wavy hair is genetic because his ancestors, Elendil and Isildur, are in this show, and they have that shoulder length wavy hair.
It's like they can't cut it. That's where our power to rule comes from.
Hey guys, remember Viggo Mortensen? So
remember how we cast him at the last minute to replace a douchebag and he ended up being the best thing about this film?
But yeah, so I mean, obviously, they're doing something with that hair. It's definitely clearly a callback. And I think because during this time, since Halbrand is supposed to be portraying this long lost king, that line ended but did it. Yeah, they're definitely doing Aragorn callbacks even with the hair.
Which Galadriel hasn't met Aragorn yet. He's not even been born yet for another thousands of years. It's just for us.
It's just for us. That's this whole TV show. It's just callbacks to the movies. It's just for you.
Just like wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Remember the Balrog?
Remember when a bunch of crazy people went to New Zealand for 3 years and just played fantasy?
It just made this art.
This movie that will never, ever, ever, nothing like it will ever be made just because it was insane.
Because they made it with love.
It was a passion project.
They loved it. In this, you can just tell it's not there.
And no, you think these people were putting hand by hand every piece of chainmail together?
Yes.
No.
Oh my gosh. All those New Zealand women just wearing beards, playing Rohirrim.
Riding the horses.
Oh, yeah.
It's just, there ain't nothing like it.
No.
And honestly, you couldn't do it again today. For many reasons.
Not anymore.
For many reasons.
But it's just nothing's going to beat it. I don't know. That's why, The Hobbit, this stuff.
Let it be.
Yeah. It's just, you're not going to.
God, it's like, what is it? The Bible too, It's like, just let it be. That's because what it is to me, to us, it's like close
basically.
To holy text. So just let it be.
Just let it go. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, they're not going to do it.
No way. But it is to provide entertainment. You just have to think of it as like it's fan
exactly.
fiction, right?
I mean, all those fans of Star Wars these days, we're all on the same boat now.
Everything you love will be ground at the altar of capitalism, and every ounce of every penny will be wrung from it.
Yeah, at least I think there's some good Star Wars stuff, so we'll just have to keep an eye out. We'll just have to get through all the slog through the not good stuff.
I'll slog through it. Okay, so let's
Anyway,
get back to the
that's
story.
my
here,
thoughts.
'cause- yeah.
I didn't like this
We'll
TV
just
show.
rag on- it's going to be equal parts talking about Haladriel, equal parts waxing about our love for the original
Yep.
trilogy, and then an equal part
Bitching
shitting
about
on the
what's
new
been done
stuff.
with it.
Yeah, that's, because we're getting old.
Yep.
Shout out to our cousin's boyfriend who said The Hobbit was better than
Oh
Lord
my
of the
gosh.
Rings.
Our high school.
I've never felt older.
He was in high school because it had better CGI. It wasn't even good CGI.
It wasn't. I did notice for this series they went back to orcs being people in makeup, and I appreciated that. Okay,
Anyway, okay, yeah.
so we're going to do a new segment here, which, okay, we're workshopping it, so bear with us on the name. So we're going to call it Meet Cute or Poop Shoot, which I just, because it rhymed. Please think of something better to put there. But we're going to talk about how this couple meets, and then we're going to talk about if it's actually a meet cute or if it's coming out the poop shoot.
All right, so I've already mentioned they meet on a raft. So Galadriel tosses herself off the boat, heading for the Undying Lands, aka heaven, and then swims. This is my issue with this character. She doesn't want to she doesn't want to die, so she just tosses herself off the boat in the middle of the ocean. What's
Yeah,
going to happen there?
Much safer.
Yeah,
Much
way better. So anyway, but she does, of course, get saved by a raft of kind of refugees from a sea monster attack.
So she swims up, they bring her on. I don't know if they mentioned the worm or not until after she's on the boat, or if it was chasing her and then they pull her up to safety.
Now, season 2, we know that it attacked the boat Sauron was on first, so
Got
it's
it.
just an area.
I think it was chasing her and they came on the boat, and then the lady was like, you brought it straight to us. And so she pushes Galadriel back into the water to like appease the monster. But while this is going on, the monster is attacking the raft again. And then this strapping young gentleman who we don't know yet, he like unties a section of the raft and then pushes off. And so then while we see all the other people who are on the raft being knocked into the water and eaten alive by the sea monster, Galadriel's just treading water out there watching it happen. And this guy's just pushing himself away on a little raft with a pole. And then after it's finished decimating the remains of the people on that boat, it just decides it's done and swims away.
Okay. Well,
Which
actually, honestly, season 2, this kind of makes more sense.
Yeah, because at the time I was like, whoa, thank God they wore their plot armor today.
But yeah, so season 2, you find out fake Sauron is on a boat. The boat is attacked by the sea monster. They all end up, drowning in the water. The sea monster, is bearing down on not Sauron, ready to snatch him up in his claws, just like to end a lot of problems in one go. But then he kind of mind melds with it, and it turns away at the last moment. Also, in season 2, you find out Numenor uses the exact same sea monster to prove the worth of criminals.
Oh yeah, I did see this in the synopsis.
Yeah, so I mean, the sea monster decides that the not queen of Numenor is good enough, so maybe that's kind of a combo, Galadriel, she passes the test, and then Sauron can just kind of control it, so yeah, chase it away.
And all those poor refugees.
Yeah, they don't deserve it. They deserve death.
Gosh, what are the implications? I will say that
It's
again
almost
and
like
again.
someone didn't think it through that much.
They just were like, and then this happened, and then that happened.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah,
Maybe we'll
put it on the
explain
screen.
Yeah, 2 years later in the next season.
Yeah, we'll have to wait. Just a couple years.
Anyway, so yeah. What?
Yeah, back to the meet cute part.
How do we rate this?
Well, okay, so after Halbrand pushes away on his little raft, he does come and pull Galadriel out of the water in a very kind of romantic way, and she's got the long white elven robe gown, and it's soaking wet and clinging to her, and it's there's tension when they start talking to each other right off the bat. And I think there's something about her brother's knife, she had it on the boat, and then it got lost when she got thrown in, and he gives it back to her, and I'm like, okay, this is really lining up for a meet cute, right? It just jumps right into the tension. They're two good-looking people, life or death, having little repertoire, witty banter. I was like, yeah, I'll call this a meet cute. Except for the fact that we had just watched a bunch of people get eaten by a sea worm or whatever.
Literally,
which I will call
A boat full of refugees. You even season 2, you find out that they are refugees from the orc army that Sauron is wanting to control.
Yeah, so his people drove them out. I know, they're just trying to stay alive, and they get eaten by a worm in front of them. Yeah, I'd say that's not very sexy.
Not sexy.
It's so close to a meet cute, but I'm going to say poop shoot. Which, again, we need to workshop that a little bit more.
Yeah, we'll think about it.
We'll consult the thesaurus and we'll get back to you next episode. Yeah. Once they connect on that raft, they're kind of inseparable, right? For the rest of the first season.
Yeah, basically they go like all over the place. They go to the Southlands, future Mordor. They make it to Numenor, the like kind of city on the hill for the men of this world. They fight in some battles. Eventually ending up at Eregion, where they start making some rings.
And they spend a lot of season 2 separated. But even while they're apart, well, because of the big reveal that we'll talk about here. But even still, they get some good moments in the brief times they have, and even when they're apart. So let's talk about some of their top moments where we felt a lot of where the fandom felt a lot of sizzle. And we will talk about if we felt it as well. And the first is after fighting in the Southlands, which Emily, you've watched the show more than I had. Was this the Mount Doom explosion fight, or was this a different fight?
Oh gosh, that was so long ago. I think it's kind of Mount Doom, right? Because it all ends up covered in ash. So it's like very much like right before Mount Doom becomes Mount Doom. I mean, anyway, Southlands is all Mordor. They're always surrounded by mountains. You're just like, how does that work out geographically? But yeah,
don't ask too many questions. Yeah. So Halbrand is saying that he is the king of the South, the long lost king of the South. So they're going back there to try to reclaim his lands from the orcs and save the people. And so they do this big fight, right? And then afterwards, this Halbrand Sauron character has a little heart-to-heart with Galadriel. And he said that them fighting together made him feel some kind of way, and he wanted to bind himself to her. Something along those lines. If I could take the feeling that I had of fighting next to you and bind it to myself, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yes, and she agrees. She says, me too.
So essentially, he's saying they want to bind their power. They want to he's essentially saying that they can like balance their power, right? She's the Lady of Light, and he's got this like darker side to him, and together they can have a good balance to that, which is what the age-old thing that we keep running into with these topics. She can fix him. I feel like that needs to be a catchphrase.
Yep, bring him back to the light. Make him.
He's redeemable. He's savable. He just needs the love of a good woman.
Yep.
Oh no. But some people like this scene. It's a very frequent one in the fan edits. And who doesn't like that? We're like, we're women that were raised in the 90s and the early 2000s. Like that was all, you were supposed to be about that. Want to fix a dude. So of course it speaks to us. I do think it's romantic. Sue me, even though my adult self is like, golly.
Yeah, not worth it.
Yeah.
You can't change a person if they don't want to change.
Yeah, it's not your job. Yep. But in the moment, I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. And then he makes an even stronger case for them being together in that grand finale reveal episode at the very end.
Yes, when Galadriel looks at a family tree and realizes that the line of the Southern Kings has been dead for 1,000 years.
Yeah, somebody just put a big X on it. Dead 1,000 years. With that image, that scroll was so hokey. It was just like one name down to one name down to one. I was like, no wonder they went extinct. There's just always having one kid. No, that was super silly.
Yeah.
But it does provide a very key plot point, which lets her realize something is afoot. And I think there was other things going on that kind of raised her suspicions.
Right. He was a little violent. He had some like suspicious strength. Not just like a guy.
not just like your regular dude, but she was convinced that she could fix him at this point. So she was maybe now she's starting to get suspicious.
Some blinders on. It worked for her, what she was trying to accomplish. So not really taking in anything. Yeah,
and that's where she has her cute little line to reach the light. You sometimes have to touch the darkness. Because she was grappling with a lot of darkness this season too, right? She was very vengeful and focused on killing Sauron. But when she figures this all out, she gets her cute little moment in the woods with him. And it just it reminded me so much of Twilight, where they're in the woods and she's like, "What are you?" And Edward says, "Out loud." Because he's like, "You know who I am. Galadriel."
Another little Twilight moment, potentially. So it turns out she is married this whole time. She does have a husband. He's just kind of missing. She doesn't know where he is. So she has a daughter with her husband. That daughter is actually Elrod's future wife. So it's almost, it's kind of like
a Renesmee Jacob.
Yeah.
Because she does kind of
she's got a thing with Elrond a little bit. Yeah.
A lot of intimate face touching.
And and if her husband ever shows up and they ever have a kid, a baby.
Oh God. This is what they don't tell you about immortality.
A little weird.
It is a little incestuous, in my opinion. But that's why you got to stick with romantic strangers you meet on rafts. So after Galadriel confronts Halbrand about who he is, he uses his Stark Lord Sauron power, and all of a sudden they're back on the raft, right? He's just he makes these illusions around people. And that's when we get some real big fanfic fodder, right? With the quote, "I alone can see your greatness. I alone can see your light," which it kind of sounds romantic, but then again, it also kind of reminded me of the first step of an abusive relationship, which is removing your support systems. Nobody loves you like I love you.
No one else understands our love.
Exactly. But then he does proposition her to be his queen, that is. And he says,
his dark queen.
Yeah, he said, "You'll be the queen and I'll be," she says, "Your king, my king," or something like that. And she said, "But a dark king." And he goes, "No, not dark, with you at my side." So again, he's like, "You could fix me, baby."
Yeah, maybe with your light next to my dark, it wouldn't all just be terrible.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, I don't really fully understand what his goal is, because it just seems to be destruction, but okay.
There's not really on either side, because then she does this whole thing where she was like, "You want to rule. Save or rule?" And he goes, "I don't see the difference." And she's like, "I do." And I'm like, "Okay, what's your platform, babe? What are you running on? You save Middle Earth. What does that mean to you?"
Right. You still have a king. Yeah.
Yeah. What is your objective here?
Right.
But this was also one of the first scenes of because I did not watch this series. It came out in September 2022, and so did my son. So I that time period of newborn age is just it's a black hole of memory. I know I've watched some of these episodes, and I think my husband finished the whole season, but I did not.
That's fine. I watched it all. I don't remember any of it.
Yeah. But there was a thing where I thought that Halbrand being Sauron was implied. I didn't know it was explicitly said. So I watched
I think she calls him Sauron, or he says I'm Sauron at some point.
Damn. Yeah, no, I was hoping it would be more abstract, not abstract, what's the word?
Implied.
Subjective. Yeah, more implied, because then it could be romantic a little bit longer, and there's a little bit more tension there. Well, and they did it with I thought in a kind of clever way with the raft and the water, the reflections in the water being distorted. Yeah. I was like, I thought that was kind of good. There's some parts of this.
It's very obviously a callback to her speech, The Lord of the Rings.
Yes, it's like they took that one section of dialogue.
Yeah, I would be the Tempest, or
Yes, of light, and all would love me and fear
and despair.
And despair, which is funny because I just found that onesie that you bought for Roman that has that quote on it. My son.
And despair. Yeah. You love him.
Yes. And just, we're all a little afraid of him,
and
too.
despair at them. Yeah, the mess he makes in the restaurant.
So that's kind of the
Nah.
climax of season 1, and that's what you're going to see a lot of in the fan edits. And I will admit, there is a lot of tension there. I think they did cast 2 good actors in the sense that they played well off each other. There was chemistry. Maybe it's just the guy actor more so than the girl actor.
Just
But or maybe it's just me projecting all my Aragorn love onto him. But like the whole first season, I'm like, yes.
I mean, they could have been. Yeah, they could have done worse. He is attractive.
Yes.
With that hair. I do. Yeah. So in the second season, he's Sauron. He's like a manipulator. He's sneaky. He does disguises. So he does his kind of elf form, Anatar, the Lord of Gifts. And it's not as hot. They make him blonde. It doesn't work as well.
He's got a pretty little bow in his hair.
The hair
is so
is
weird.
His hair is so cute.
It's a Dark Lord, and he's got a bow of his own hair.
Yeah,
in his hair.
Clearly, like that. It takes at least 20 minutes in the mirror, like perfecting every morning.
And now when you're the Dark Lord,
You are the Dark Lord.
as you can manifest yourself into whatever shape possible, and you're like, yes, a bow of hair. It's silly. But okay, so these two have ran around all first season, together, and now they're separated because she knows he's evil.
She does. She knows. Does she tell anyone? No. Does it come out immediately? Yes. And does nobody think, hey,
Question?
maybe Galadriel should have told us? Maybe it kind of looks like she's, in cahoots.
In on it? Well, she's
little
touching the
bit.
darkness, baby.
But yeah, it doesn't really come up. Is not a problem for her.
I think it's also very fair to say that even though the two are not together, Sauron is very much on Galadriel's mind through the duration of season 2. And as we come to find, she is also on Sauron's mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the highlights that people call from season 2 to fan the flames that keep Haladriel or Saurondriel or Galadon that keeps Galadon alive is how Sauron creeps on the poor intern who is helping them forge the rings. Or I guess she's not an intern. She's, what would you call her? Apprentice.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
an intern. That's the narrative that speaks to the modern day humans.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like caresses her hair at some point, which is not okay. Straight to HR. And the quote is, "When the light caught your hair for a moment, you seemed her perfect likeness." And the apprentice asks, "Whose likeness?" And Sauron replies, "Why, Lady Galadriel's, of course." So he's just thinking about a lot of the fans who are critical will say that he's doing this as an act, but who is he fooling in this scene?
It's the elf. It's Meridia. So she's pretty solidly Sauron on his side at the end when he's deep into tricking Celebrimbor to make these rings that he wants for men, the most easily corruptible of them all. Yeah. So he says a lot of things. Mirandia kind of betrays Celebrimbor, or she believes he's gone senile, I guess, for an immortal being.
Yeah.
And then, Sauron's like, when we get through this, I'll make sure you're rewarded. And guess what happens to her?
Oh, she gets thrown off the tower.
She gets tossed off a wall.
Yeah. But I know he was trying to woo her, but why woo her by saying you look like Lady Galadriel?
Right, because who is she in this world? And at this point, we don't know.
She's just some crazy bitch running around betraying everybody and just doing whatever the F she wants.
Bamboozled by literally everybody.
Well, I feel like he's being bamboozled as well, I think. Because, in his mind, he's like, oh, I'm going to compliment you by saying you look like the hottest lady around. And apparently that's Lady Galadriel, who I'm definitely not still thinking about. And that leads to the kind of the climax of the final season where there's a big wannabe Helm's Deep, Minas Tirith battle going on.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow, among all of that, these two find time to sneak off together to have a big old fight scene. Again, I didn't watch it. I only watched the I watched the scenes. So I don't know how they got to this place, but they're there together and they're about to start fighting.
Right. So yeah, she leads some elves to safety. That's how she ends up in the woods during the city siege. There's a secret tunnel. They do survive. I went back and checked because I was like, I thought they all got murdered, and because check off another failure of Galadriel's. But no, they do survive. She offers herself.
Usually I'm the hater, so this is refreshing.
Just this show. No, they do get caught like immediately, but she says, "Don't kill them. Take me instead." So they take her to Daddy Orc.
Oh yes,
who a lot of people thirst about. A lot of thirsting over Adar, Orc Daddy.
That's just because they're like, he's a good father.
Yeah,
he's a provider.
Yep. He gets pretty immediately betrayed by Sauron. So he shows up, and then they have their okay battle.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. That tracks.
Yep.
And this is full. This battle is full of all kinds of throwbacks to the first season, which we talked about. The whole season the whole series is a throwback. So it's a throwback to a throwback that's throwing back. And you get like all the good lines that are coming back. Mm-hmm. You know, you got to touch darkness, baby. All that kind of stuff. And then he's talking about how they were buddies in the past season. He says, remember last season? No, but he talked about how they had a good relationship. And she was like, it was an illusion. And then he says, not all of it. And it's just like, oh, writers knew what they were doing there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because what parts weren't an illusion?
Yeah, I mean,
he was in love with her.
I feel like there's nothing really backing any of this up. But also, you know, he's a manipulator. He's a deceiver. So yeah, he's going to say whatever he needs to say in the moment.
Well, yeah, she either likes him or vice versa. I like to think it's reciprocated. But yeah, he could obviously be appealing to her in that way if she does have a crush on cute Halbrand as opposed to Hairbow.
He does do an illusion thing where he like becomes different characters, and he becomes his previous self as Halbrand. And I was like, is that a different actor? Because he is fine.
Yeah, it's like I had to look it up as well because I'm like, no way that's the same dude. It is. Apparently different looks can really change.
Just really not doing him any favors with that wig.
Well, I'm just like, man, is there like some alternate universe where I would look completely different, where I'm like 10 times hotter?
You just gotta change your hair up, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the recipe here? I don't know. And that's the part where it was just like, she could have just stabbed him.
Exactly.
But also, like, I don't
because she just kind of stands there while he does he becomes old him, he becomes her, he becomes like, Celebrimbor, but it's like
and changing again. Presto, changeo. Ooh.
You know it's Sauron though.
So just stab him.
Just stab him.
But this was after, I should say, it's this whole scenery, because he uses this to disorient her after she Spartan kicks him off a ledge. And when I saw that, I was like, hell yeah. I love that move. That's a great move. That got me out of a real bind in Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
That was a good addition to that game. That was very fulfilling to like sneak up on a guard and just boop, kick him off the cliff.
Yeah, drop kick him. Yep. And I'm glad to see that long legacy honored in the Rings of Power. A nice little piece at the end where he revisits some of his lines that he gave her on the imaginary raft, talking about putting a crown on her head and making her queen. And Emily, you want to read the quote?
So what I have transcribed, I would have placed a crown on your head. I wouldn't have rested until the people of Middle-earth worshipped the light of its queen. So kind of calling back to her speech in Lord of the Rings about how she would be a dark queen, loved and despaired. The pebble.
Kind of calling back, like explicitly referencing.
Yeah.
Or maybe laying.
There was maybe some other lines in that whole scene that was also explicitly, calling back to Lord of the Rings lines.
It's like there's a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge, right? That's the point of the show.
Yep.
And so that's where they leave it. Again, she turns him away. She says, the free people of Middle-earth will never follow you. Or something like that.
Yep.
And then I didn't
With a single tear.
With a single tear. Paid professional.
Yep.
The tier was. Hired actor. And I don't really know how she gets out. Oh, she falls backwards, right?
Yes, yeah. So he wants her ring.
Rod.
Yep. She has all 9 of the human rings, which we know is a big deal. That's the Nazgul men are the most easily corrupted. They become his like kind of Navy SEALs of his army. So yeah, he wants her ring, her elf ring. She takes it off her finger, holds it out to him, and then right before dropping it into his hand, goes psych, just jumps off a cliff. She could have just done it at any time. She didn't have to be so dramatic about it. But yeah.
I mean, yeah, she could have just done that for the beginning and saved all the fighting.
Could have just jumped off a cliff. But I mean, leaving.
I think that's an important lesson for everybody. Whenever you're in a social situation that you don't want to be in, just fall off a cliff.
Right. Which is just, if you think about the movie, that Isildur, he's got the one ring, the very, very important one. He's on a cliff. There's lava below him. And he's like, no, I will not destroy this ring. Elrond's right there. He could have just Spartan kicked that idiot.
About this. Well, let's go back to Galadriel and Sauron and what the fandom thinks, because there's like a solid group of people who are very pro Galadriel. And the pieces that they like is that she has got a bit of darkness in her, right? We see that in her drive for revenge. We see that in the actual original trilogy where she's like, ooh, maybe I will just keep this little ring for myself.
She has to, she's like, you can't have this ring by me. If I take it, like, I'll be massively powerful, but it's like too much. It'll be too tempting. It'll go dark. Yeah. She knows. She understands the power.
Yes. And they're kind of like caught from the same cloth, right? Where they both are out to save, quote unquote, Middle Earth, but just in very different ideas of how to go about doing it.
Yeah, but what does that mean? Even if you have the best of intentions, maybe, in enacting it, if you're forcing your will on other people, that's not positive.
Right. So Galadriel is still drawn to power, right? That was like as in the earlier text or some of the text that Tolkien did about the early days of Middle Earth. She left beautiful Elfland to go to Middle Earth because she wanted a place to rule, or she wanted some kind of power. So it just also fits that they both have that kind of tie in it as well, right? He tells her, you bind me to the light and I bind you to power.
Right.
So like maybe there is, I mean, I don't know. I see that. I'm like, okay, I could see that. But there's also a lot of cons as well, right? The first and foremost being he's like literally the embodiment of evil.
Yeah. Tolkien is not a whole lot of ambiguity
gray area
there.
Yeah. It's like you're good or you're bad.
Yeah.
If you're bad, you're ugly.
Yep. Yeah, basically. The whole kind of theme is hope in the facing that darkness. He was in trench warfare in the World Wars. So yeah, so it's kind of like you got to face that ultimate darkness, but still have hope. So yeah, you're not really trying to justify what's going on there.
Right. It's just literally evil. Yep. Evil for evil's sake.
It's just evil.
And I heard somebody describe him on a subreddit as literature's number one narcissist. And so the idea that Sauron can love anybody is preposterous, right? He doesn't love her. He loves the idea of her, or he loves the idea of having her, possessing her,
right?
Which is what you were saying, like he's a manipulator. He's telling her what she wants to hear. Yeah,
because he can't love, right? Like that's kind of like anathema to like Mordor, right? So it's just the idea, the power that is associated, I could corrupt this elf,
the Lady of Light,
who's they're like the good, in Lord of the Rings. Yeah, and he's just manipulative. He's literally doing whatever he needs to do to get to where he wants to be, which is Sauron.
Yeah,
the Dark Lord.
That's fair. And now you're talking me back a little bit. When you put it in that light, it doesn't seem as romantic. But it doesn't stop people from being obsessed with it.
No, I guess
there's actually a subreddit that's called Haladriel. It's got 400 users, and I read a lot of it today.
I'm deep in the Lord of the Rings. So, yeah, coming from that kind of stance.
But if you were a casual fan.
Yeah, right. If you had maybe read some dark romance on
or you're a new
Kindle.
fan and of your exposure to Sauron is Halbrand, right? You're just like, how could he be so bad if he's so good looking?
Right, he's just a guy. He hasn't done that much of bad stuff yet. Except tossing that chick off the wall.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, well, he does murder Celeborn as well.
Yeah, he does some bad stuff.
Yeah. He is evil. He's pretty evil.
Yeah, but that doesn't stop people.
No.
There is a myriad of fan
evil
fiction out there, right?
for a reason. But not evil for his lady.
Exactly. She can fix him.
Or at least rein him in a little bit.
Yeah. They can balance each other.
Anyway,
they're conscious. His angel on his shoulder.
Yep.
But okay, so all this is to say, I've gone further down the rabbit hole than I not normally have, but the conversation definitely has. Because, this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. And I watched, maybe I was a part of the illusion, but the scenes that I watched in the first season, he talked about like his path could be altered. The grip that Morgoth had on him once he died, he was like, I can be whatever I want to be. It makes me ask, was he actually really redeemable? Could she have steered him towards maybe not a good path, but better than what he would have been without her? Or was he really just joshing the whole time?
So I've been Googling, so I know some of this stuff. In the books, when Morgoth did fall, he did repent for a bit. He did kind of try to say, like, I'm sorry. He corrupted me. It's all on Morgoth. But when he was directed to return to Valar to face, like judgment, he kind of chickened out of that and didn't make it. So I don't know. Was it real though? Or was he just saving his own skin?
Yeah, which, I mean, to be fair, you could be sorry about the things that you do and still not want to be punished for them.
Mm.
I guess not sorry.
Regret choices when you're losing.
Right. It's easy to be like, damn, that was a mistake.
Yeah.
When it didn't work out for you in the end. But I could also understand where if you, like, there's a difference between being like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. And also being like, sure, Valar or whatever, put me in Middle Earth jail or whatever they have.
Yeah. Make me a giant spider.
I mean, that probably wouldn't be the worst thing because then you get to eat tasty orcsises all the time.
She's a star. She made it into season 2.
Yeah.
Anyway,
could be worse things. But I don't know. He just seems so sincere as an actor. Maybe I'm dupeable.
Hoodwinked. Befuddled.
But then the other
just
thing
like Galadriel.
I am no better than Galadriel, the Lady of Light. We're the same. Oh, gosh. That's the high compliment to pay oneself. I guess not in this series.
Yeah, in the movie,
theory.
I even rewatched the scene from The Hobbit. She kicked ass in that scene. But yeah, this TV show, I guess, coming into it, I think
did not land.
Because I am also so extremely opposed to Galadriel. And I just find the TV show so stupid. I'm just like excited for Sauron to succeed.
I can't wait for him to stomp all these people.
Yeah, it's like all these heroes, they are just all dumb. They're all so stupid. They don't do anything. There is good parts of the show. I've spent a lot of time hating on the show. I like the Harfoots. Honestly, some of the dwarf stuff's pretty good. I think those actors, they're just, despite what they're given, they have enough charisma where I still enjoy them. But it's like, this is specifically the part of the show that I find the most annoying. So I think he was just manipulating her. I think like we haven't really seen a reason to believe she's smart at all or not dupable. Fair. So yeah, I kind of think he's just playing her like a fiddle.
And she's falling for it. Yep. They always fall for it.
Yep, and he's pretty cute, so we all just kind of want him to succeed.
Yeah, I know, but there is something about that dynamic that is alluring, right? We see it with, like I talked about before, Kylo Ray or Kylo, I forgot their names, Kylo Ren and Rey. So it is Ben Solo. Yeah. So it's definitely a dichotomy or a dynamic that we see a lot and that people like. But okay, one last question before we get into our one true pairing score. One true pairing to rule them all. So, okay, one of the things that I love is that it is give you more context for, in theory, right? If you take this to heart and call it canon, it can give you more context for interactions in the later stuff. So I'm like, what can we learn or what can we take from this Haladriel relationship and apply it to the other scenes in Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, right? Like when she rejects the ring or almost takes it, is she thinking about being back on the raft in the proposition? Or is she maybe like, I don't want to be nobody's queen. Now's my chance to, I don't want to be somebody's queen consort. I want to be the queen regent, and this is her chance. Or I don't know, when she's fighting him in what's the name of that castle?
I mean, she's kicked a lot of ass on her own. I think it's kind of like, but I don't need you. Go back to the shadows. She says, back to the void. You have no power here.
But do you think, again, like, is it like an ex or is it like seeing seeing somebody, is it in that moment? I guess time will tell of the rings of power. But is it like she's seeing somebody who duped her and like played with her feelings? Or is she seeing a long, the one that got away potentially? Is she like excited a little bit in that moment? Just kind of like, oh no, this is embarrassing. I hope my hair looks good enough. Because she looked ethereal in that film.
Yeah.
Her hair was out of place.
Yeah, she kicked a lot of ass, I will say.
That's the Galadriel.
Yes, that one, I was like, this is what she should be like.
Not the one with pores.
No, not with pores making bad decisions.
I don't know. But we do know our one true pairings to rule them all scores that we can give the couple. Emily, I think I know which way yours is going to go, so I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I'm going like 0.
0.
I'm going to say 0 out of 10. What do they come in? Like bags of old Toby, that like really good pipe.
Oh.
That the Hobbit smoke. They find some in
0 out of 10.
An Isengard. I don't know. I guess that this is literally like the part of the show I liked the least. I just cannot stand Galadriel in the show. I just think he's just playing her. Yeah, it's because I like a competent character. I like a competent villain. I like when you find out what happens and it's like, oh, it's been the plan all along. So I kind of like that. Maybe he's just the manipulation, the gaslighting. That was the plan all along. So yeah, I'm not into it at all. Also, she is married this whole time.
Marriage to marriage, right? I think I will change mine. I originally had a different score, but I think I will change it to 3 out of 9 rings for mortal men doomed to fall. I think, I was going to give it a higher one, but through the conversation and reminding me of how bad Sauron actually is. Yeah, that's probably not ideal. But there's just a party that wants it to work, man.
Like conceptually, alternate universe.
Well, just like not even get together, but just like the piece that he's not manipulating her, and he does have really romantic feelings for her, but it can never be.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love a doomed romance? That's just great. I eat that up. So that's that in my head canon until proved otherwise by some dubiously written script thrown onto the small screen. I will say that he actually does love her at some level.
Like a little bit,
Yeah.
Maybe he respects her for what,
Right. He's at least infatuated with her.
Yeah. Power recognizes power,
Right.
He's like, I could get that on my side.
Yeah, I could live with that on my side too. Yeah. It's not like, okay, I'm going to get it on my side because I need to. It's just like, I kind of want it as well.
Yeah, see, that's where I don't think so. But
and there's like, I'm going to say I think so. And that's where the romance is. And that's why it's 3 out of 9 and not 0 out of 100 or whatever yours.
I always go out of 10.
Yeah.
I like the ring.
Smart.
The ring, yeah. It's good.
Yeah, originally I had it was 1 out of 1 ring to rule them all, but because I was vibing with it from the art and all the things, all the fan edits. But then I was like, oh, actually come back down to Middle Earth here. And but like, yeah, he's the Middle Earth Hitler. So
Yeah, he's pretty evil. He's pretty straightforwardly evil.
hey, he's not trying to hide who he was.
He was literally.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, anyway, this is good. This show. I don't know why it makes me so bad.
And this was your idea to do this one.
Yeah, well,
We had lots to say.
I got feelings. Yeah.
Well, it was funny because I was like, we're going to talk about Lord of the Rings, but we're not actually going to have her do one because there's not a lot of ships. But here I was wrong already, and we got a beefy episode for you.
Yep, this one, I was like, it's going to be spicy. We got to do this one.
It is. Emily had her opinions. She made a fresh drink before we started. I was like, let's go. I think that is enough spice in my life for tonight. Thank you all for joining us today. We wish you well on your journey to reaching your ultimate form. That is Cate Blanchett.
Yes. We can only aspire.
And we hope you will join us for our next foray into some kind of forbidden romance, I guess. If it is
or
like
at least
this episode.
underexplored.
Underexplored. Yes. You too always remember and never forget, heed me.